So those of you who are from other United Ways, would you care to share where you're from?
Hi there, this is Mo, and I work with Burke County United Way in Morganton, North Carolina.
Well, thank you. We've got Massachusetts here as well. Wonderful. Syracuse, New York. Awesome. We did this type of presentation early 2021 after a successful launch of the CCEC, and we had United Way from Canada, one from California, one from Louisville, so it was pretty well attended, and we just felt like it was time to give it back again and share what we're doing here again. So we'll get started in 2 minutes, and again, we are recording this for our friends around the network who want to view it later. Welcome, Maria. Do you want to share which United Way you're with? Well, we will get started. Again, we are recording this so our other United Way friends can watch this later through the link that we'll include in Workplace by Facebook. Let me go ahead and share the screen.
Yep, that was it.
Make sure I'm doing this right. Can everybody see that?
Yes.
All right. Well, good afternoon, and thank you so much for joining United Way of the River Cities for this afternoon's call. I'm Bill Rosenberger, the Director of Resource Development here, and I'm very excited to share with all of you from across the network what we've done here in Huntington, West Virginia in our 5-county footprint. Before we start, I want to say that this week is actually my 4-year anniversary at United Way of the River Cities, and one of the things that I've really come to love about United Way is that we do have this strong network of colleagues that we can share ideas with, whether it's through Workplace by Facebook. I've visited folks in Knoxville, Tennessee, and our group took a visit to Lexington, Kentucky, 2 hours down the road, to be able to meet each other, share ideas, especially coming after COVID, how we've all rebounded. And so that's exactly why we're here today. We have found great success with this engagement model, and we really just wanted to share it with everyone. So, like many of you, it was confirmed this morning in an email from Angela Williams. Revenues across the network are down, particularly in workplace campaigns. I'm sorry. But revenues are down, particularly in our workplace campaigns. But overall philanthropy and really giving is up among nonprofits and other abilities for people to give. And so one of the reasons that we do what we do and how we do it is kind of that basic fundraising wheel. We identify donors and build relationships. We let them know what the need is. We make the ask. We do a great job with thanking and showing appreciation. And then we should be reporting the impact so that we can continue building that relationship. But what we were experiencing here at United Way of the River Cities was the relationship piece was struggling. And part of it was because reporting the need is not enough. Make sure I get folks. Apologize for that. Not sure how to admit.
I'll take care of it.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. Reporting the need is not enough, and we certainly weren't doing a great job of reporting the impact. And I don't have to tell this group the power of Facebook fundraising and GoFundMe. This generation of donors are moved by the stories that they read because they know exactly where their money is going. But if a family loses a home in a fire or someone is diagnosed with cancer, you're introduced to that person or that family. You see their photos. You might even hear them talk about their loss. So you are immediately captivated by that, and you see the need, you see the impact, and you're seeing all the folks who are giving back as well. And, we are pretty good with numbers. United Ways across the network are good with numbers. We do know the needs in the community, and we should be gathering the impact data. But what does GoFundMe have that we don't? Well, sure, they can use social media and the internet to spread the message and make it seem more personal, but we really have the power to do that. And so one of our partners, just kind of showing you the social media, one of our partners is Harmony House, a homeless organization in our community. I was actually development director there for 3 years before joining United Way, but they're very good at displaying the need. And people do respond. They bring in all kind of stuff. And so they're good at showing the impact. But our goal is to provide that kind of engagement at a deeper and personal level. And that's what led us to where we are today. And so just to go back to 2019, everybody's familiar with what Giving Tuesday is. We chose as a staff to read all the classrooms of a nearby elementary school. It was a very powerful and engaging experience, but the most amazing part was when we returned from holiday break and we had this delivery of all these handmade thank you cards and notes from these students. And it was just very, very powerful, very emotional for all of us. And I immediately said, that's the kind of experience we want to share with our donors and the community. Let them experience that emotional high that we did. And so we knew we needed help to put that kind of plan into action. So we knew we needed to rethink resource development. We knew we needed to think about strategic engagement. And we knew that we needed help. We needed an advisory council to come in and help make that possible. And so some of those folks you're going to hear from here in a minute. But I want to introduce our executive director, Carol Bailey, who is also a development director for the Huntington Museum of Art, or she was the development director for the Huntington Museum of Art prior to taking the lead here at United Way in 2018. And so, Carol, I was hoping that you could talk a little bit about, before we really dive into the details of the Corporate Community Engagement Council, talk about the details of what you've seen as a result of this type of engagement.
Sure. Thanks, Bill. And good afternoon, everyone. Happy that all of you can join us today. We're excited to share what is a really successful program for us here in Huntington, West Virginia, the urban center of our geographic region. We serve 5 counties, but this is the place our office is located, and it's also the place where many agencies that provide needed social and human services and programs are also located. So, as Bill mentioned, prior to coming to United Way, I was involved in development at an arts institution, and a very, very different type of fundraising versus United Way. And I think that that has actually served me and served United Way of the River Cities in a very positive way. Because coming from an arts institution, it was a place where we applied for grants for different programs, whether it was an art exhibit or a particular educational offering we wanted to make, taking art education offsite into local schools, which we did, whether it was securing foundation gifts, whether it was dealing with an annual membership campaign, also individual gifts, major gifts, as well as smaller gifts. So we were doing a variety of different kinds of fundraising. And of course, all fundraising, if it's successful, really does involve cultivation. And at that arts institution, as at many, many nonprofits, United Ways included, we relied on volunteers to help us pull off some of the big events that were, whether they were fundraisers for us, whether they were opportunities to expose our wider community to the art offerings. It was not something that the staff of 20 people could do on their own. And the same is true here at our United Way, where our staff is half that size. And actually, I think we mount even more events and programs than we did when I was at the museum. So recognizing that coming into this role, I had a little bit broader experience with where funding can come from and different ways to connect with volunteers to encourage that funding. Then coming to United Way and seeing that it was, primarily the workhorse of fundraising is the workplace campaign. But coming in and seeing, as that one of those first slides Bill showed indicated, that revenue steep decline over time. We had experienced that here, while the workplace campaign was at one point the only way we looked to raise money, and then became the primary way as we did begin to fold in some events along the way. But we saw that really significant slide. And we recognized that that was not changing. We could try and stop that to some degree by working to re-engage those relationships and cultivate those even further. And we began that work, and that was successful. But it was not enough to recapture campaigns that we had lost. And I know that we're not alone in that. When I was reading the message from Angela Williams that came out late last week, and she talks about in the past, I think it was 15 years, more than 100,000 workplace campaigns have fallen off from the entire United Way network. And so we've seen this trend over a long period of time. And those of us who raise money as part of our job know that there have been big shifts in fundraising that go back just about 15 years. The onset of social media really changed things. But as Bill has pointed out, while folks can engage with social media and learn more about a very specific need that they can help by going to that Amazon wish list and purchasing some items that are on there, and they can feel very positive about that, and they should, that there is also a strong desire for those donors to be personally engaged with the work that they are supporting. And whether that is by showing up to help paint the playground equipment or pack the backpacks that students will be taking home so they can eat, they will have food over the weekend, whatever those projects might be, folks want to be involved. And recognizing that, putting 2 and 2, or maybe it was 4 and 4, I don't know how many different factors came into the equation, but adding it all up and recognizing that the strong relationships we already have with certain workplaces that have remained active with our fundraising and our engagement over the years, pairing that with the need we see in the community, and then factoring also the desire that individuals have to be part of the process, not just by handing money over, but by being actually involved in the activities, is what led to this, light bulb over Bill's head when he said, okay, I think we need to develop this new advisory council. They're going to be the Corporate Community Engagement Council. And we looked to a select few initially who had remained very active with us all along and with whom we've been really successful about re-engaging and reinvigorating those relationships. And they were very excited about the idea. These are places both large and small. And we know as United Ways that those we work with through campaign often want to provide volunteer opportunities to their employees, but they don't have time to put those opportunities together. That's one of the unique roles that United Way can fill. So we took that one step further and got those folks involved in actually creating the opportunities, the different volunteer options and projects, so that they could have ownership from the very start. And that's sort of how it began about 2 years ago. It's grown quite a bit. I don't want to steal anybody's thunder that's going to be talking as we go ahead, so I won't dive into more than that. I will say that as the executive director, I have been behind this idea from the very beginning, recognizing that the workplace campaign alone is not enough to bring in the revenue that we need in order to be able to continue to have the impact we have been having, and to be able to grow that impact through the addition of relevant programs as needs present themselves in our community. So with that in mind, is Randy on the call? Are we ready to turn it over to him?
He is not, so I will
Okay.
just jump back on to the PowerPoint and introduce folks as we move along.
Okay, and I'm happy to take any questions you may have if you're interested in trying to take this on, but not sure how to talk to the person at your organization that has to be the one to sign off on it. I'm happy to give any tips I can and answer any questions that you might have. And I'll turn it back over to Bill.
All right, thank you. So I want to take you back to January of 2020. We had a volunteer engagement coordinator, and I kind of described this person as being from the island of good deeds, where we were creating volunteer opportunities that we hoped that the community and our corporate partners would enjoy doing. They were good stuff, but we weren't really asking them if they wanted, we were hoping they would join us, but we weren't sure. We just knew it was a good thing. And I went to Carol and I said, Carol, I really feel like we need to move this role into resource development and strategically focus on that corporate and donor engagement. So February through April of 2020, in the midst of the beginning of COVID, we built this concept of the Corporate and Community Engagement Council, and we identified those first representatives. And we really determined that the CCEC's mission was to lead engagement opportunities that United Way can facilitate for donors, companies, and the community. So in June 2020, we finally had the first virtual meeting of what we have now called the Fab Five. And what's interesting, in the summer of 2020, and I know many of you have experienced this as well, COVID kind of opened our eyes and changed some perspectives about what was happening in our community. And we were the only nonprofit in our region to have a relief and recovery fund. And so we were distributing small grants out to the community. And one of the things that we saw were there were a lot of small food pantries, whether they were with churches or other entities. We didn't even know they existed because they had never needed us before. They were kind of self-sustaining, and for the first time, they couldn't self-sustain. And so we realized that there was a lot more food insecurity in our community than we realized. And so we presented that kind of data to the CCEC and allowed them to kind of use that data to come up with their first project. And that first project, not only did they support it financially and with volunteers, but it was really their project. And it became the United Together Community Give Box. And it was dedicated in December of 2020. And those are the names of our first five, our Fab Five. This Give Box is one of the larger ones in our community, with room for food and hygiene items, and even an area for hanging items. And so this was something very tangible that they got behind. And I was hoping a few of those folks might be on the call today. I know that Colin's coworker, Zach, is on, and I'm going to bring him on a little bit later. So that was the first thing that we did. And that group, there's the full Fab Five. That group ended up receiving one of our spring awards for their community project and helping us develop the CCEC. So 21 and early 22, we made tremendous strides. The the CCEC expanded to about a dozen members, including an account rep from our local TV station, 2 reps from our hospitals, 1 from the university of, so we have Marshall University here in our community. So if you've seen the movie We Are Marshall, that's right here. And we have another person who's a part of our board, who is part of a company that provides cable and internet. Now, I know she's not on the call, but I really want to highlight the participation of Tracy Teams. Tracy's the budget manager for Cabell Huntington Hospital. She's also on our board of directors and a treasurer and a very busy mom. But when she saw the impact of the CCEC from just 2020, she said, I need to be on this committee. I know my time's valuable, but I need to be on this committee. And that growth has allowed for greater expansion of projects, more collaboration with the hospital and with its donor participation. And so throughout 2021, we became a facilitator for engagement projects that the CCEC wanted to participate in. And those projects aligned with their personal passions, those of their colleagues, and the community values of their companies. And that included, I know you all are familiar with the Day of Action in June. We had a month of action in 2021 to kind of spread out people and had it outside. But that was something that the CCEC, we brought it to them and said, do you want to do, will you participate in a month of action? And overwhelmingly said yes. And then they came out and they did it. Some of you may be familiar with the 9/11 Emergency Preparedness kits and the grant that came from United Way Worldwide. They participated in that. And then we had a winter coat drive last year, which was really special because it was the first time we saw members of the CCEC kind of collaborating with each other on a project. We facilitated where the coats would go with our funded partners, but it was really them coming together to put this on. And it was really, really special. And so this year, one of the things that we did that we have talked about for a while was a bus tour. And this was kind of that next logical step for us to get the folks on our CCEC, their coworkers, and other colleagues to actually get on a bus with us. And we visited 6 funded partners back in May. And some of those with some new members of the CCEC on that bus tour, including Beth Neal from Special Metals and Kim Pratt from Directv, along with Zach Smith, who came as a representative from Bloss and Dillard. And I'd like to ask Kim to unmute and Zach as well. And, for you guys, this was maybe the first time that you saw up close where your dollars were going. And I'd love for you to share with the group what that meant to you in making that strong connection.
Yeah, happy to, Bill. Unless Kim, if you wanted to go first, you're more than welcome to.
Go ahead, Zach.
Okay. But yeah, no, it was a great day, and I think it really lasted about a full business day. We went to go see a lot of different funded partners, kind of across 2 states, and the one that always sticks out to me the most was the Backpack Buddies. And I think really it's just because when you heard her talk about that program, you could just tell how passionate she was about it and how passionate she was about helping those kids that she served in that school system. So it was really eye-opening. It was definitely great to go back to the office and kind of tell everyone at Bloss and Dillard about that. And, we have pretty good participation. If I'm not mistaken, I think for the last couple of years, we've had 100% participation in our office with the workplace donations. And I really think it's because we are involved in going out and seeing the funded partners like that.
Now, Zach, you've been a donor for a good while, but this was the first time that you really saw where your money was going. And so what was that like for you? And you've since kind of joined the CCEC as well. So what was that like for you to actually finally see where your money was going?
It's eye-opening, and it feels good. I've been a donor to the United Way ever since starting at Bloss and Dillard about 4 years ago. but this past year, the 2022 donation drive, I actually signed up to be a fair share giver, and seeing that, really kind of reaffirmed that that was a good decision to make, and it's something I'm going to do again this year because having that experience. And you mentioned a little bit earlier, but the giving box, and I think we were the first company that had the first shift of stocking that box, and that was pretty eye-opening too, because typically it was a guy in our office, Larry, that would drive down there once a week, and maybe it was once every 2 weeks, I can't remember, and restock it. And just seeing how much was gone from the box every time he went down there, and there were a couple times that I filled in for him and went down there and restocked it. It was just really eye-opening. I know there were a couple times we didn't have enough that we had received from the employees, and I think we just went over to Sam's and got some canned food to stock it up too.
Well, that's great stuff, Zach. And what also is great, and before I turn it over to Kim, I want to mention that throughout this experience, Zach has now become a campaign ambassador. And so you kind of see the domino effect of what the CCEC has done in terms of that strategic engagement and the different levels that it's hitting. Now, I'd like to introduce Kim Pratt from Directv, because I think this is one of the most inspiring messages you'll hear today. Kim and her engagement team called us in the spring and said, we're redoing our engagement here at Directv, and we feel like United Way is the best pulse in the community. Come help us to know what's best. And we did that. And then, Kim, one of your first experiences with us was going on that bus tour.
Yeah, it was. And, as much as Directv is part of the community, I'm kind of ashamed to say that, I hadn't really known a whole lot about what United Way did for just our local community here. So when the director was like, hey, I know this guy, Bill, that works for United Way, let me get you guys hooked up so you guys can get this partnership going. I didn't really know what to expect. So for me, going on the bus tour was the first experience that I really had with what you guys do. And I knew that it was something that, as a company, but also personally, I wanted to be involved in, because there was just so much good just pouring from the community and from what you guys were heading up. And since then, every time we've got people that want to do something with the community, I'm always turning to United Way, like, hey, here's what we've got, here's the capacity that we have, what can we do? And so far, just for the few months that we have been a part of this team, it has been a phenomenal experience to be able to see what good goes into the community.
Appreciate that. And there's some other photos that are going to pop up with Kim and Directv, because it's been, a phenomenal partnership with them. And so what else have we done this year? So what was really special about the bus tour for us, again, in this domino effect, some of the stops that were on that bus tour were also sites for our June week of action. And if you notice, I went from day of action to month of action to week. And again, we kind of went back to the CCEC and said, a month is really hard to plan. We don't feel like a day is enough. Will you guys go along with a week? Will you support that? And overwhelmingly, the message was, yes, we will. And, we had about 9 funded partners that volunteers went to, and many of them were from the CCEC to take part in that. And that was, again, another indication that this strategic engagement is really working. And so what else did we do this year? Well, unfortunately, that's me in the overall, the camo there. We had a luau. We wanted to bring members of the CCEC together just for a good time. Again, so much has been happening virtually. We wanted to bring them together for a cookout and just get to know each other more. And it turned out to be just a really, really nice evening. The bottom left, those are our friends from Armstrong Cable. They participated in our cornhole tournament, which we've had for the last 2 years. And in the middle is with the beard is Shane Finster. He's on our board. And he came to me this year and said, we need to step up our sponsorship. As we learn more about what you're doing in the community, we need to step it up. And so they doubled their sponsorship for cornhole. And then the top right, there's Directv again. We did the 9/11 kit build on site in their big conference space with 55 employees taking part. They built 350 kits that day. And so, again, this all kind of starts with this small group of 5 and has just been this tremendous growth. And then this is the latest from the CCEC. This happened this week. And I'll bring Kim back on again here in a second. And Zach, you're in that picture too. But they decided that they wanted to do the second year of the coat drive. And we kind of talked about making it a winter warming drive. So they bought socks, they bought jackets, they bought hoodies, and we were able to provide them through some donations with $250 gift cards. And we purposely created the teams with a mix from the CCEC. We wanted them to network together, get to know each other, and this is what happened. And so I'll bring Kim and Zach back on and tell this group about the shopping experience that you guys had today and how this maybe further built the networking that you have between companies.
I think it was a really fun experience. We had a little bit of a hiccup in the beginning, and that was totally my fault. But once we figured out where the gift card was, it was really cool to get together and just put our brains together. And of course, we were treating it like this big competition, right? We're like running around Walmart with our 3 carts, but it was really nice to know that we were doing this for our community, even though we were having fun. And I'm pretty sure it was Shane at one point said, no matter who quote unquote wins out of our teams, we all win because we know that we're giving back to the community. So it was a really good time. And then Zach had made a suggestion on a great place to eat afterwards. So we just got to go and got to learn more about just each other in general. And it was great to get to know people that we're working with in the community on more of a personal level, because then it didn't feel like it was just somebody from Armstrong or somebody from Blossom Dillard. It was Zach, it was Shane, it was these people that have a heart for our community.
And that's fantastic. And that's the kind of collaboration that we're hoping to see from the CCEC as we've moved forward, that they would learn to work together and know that United Way was behind all of this, that United Way does have the great pulse in the community, and that we can be a great facilitator for them. And so the best thing is that I know Kim will go back and will tell her entire team about the experience. And again, that they become then our ambassadors. They become the folks who become our messengers. And we're seeing, and I'll kind of close with this, we were kind of tallying up, how much has all this been worth? What kind of money have we raised, and what has been the value of the volunteerism? And we figure that it's a little over $100,000 in 2 years. And that's from the number of people in their volunteer hours. That's from additional sponsorships. That's from corporate and individual donations that have been increased or new. And so for us, and what we believe for a lot of United Ways, this is a great way to really reconnect with your companies and give them a voice that maybe they don't have right now. And I would love to open it to questions for me, for the folks from the CCEC, and just would love to hear about what you're doing and maybe what you've learned today. I have been an adjunct professor before, so I could pick on somebody. Whoops, let me unmute.
We are getting some messages. Katie
Okay.
Noble from Acton Box. I can't read the full thing. She asks, is there a required contribution to be part of the CCEC?
There is not. And our goal through our strategic fundraising has been, if we can provide these type of experiences, then we move from asking to inspiring. And I think for us, that's what we've seen happen from this group. We've inspired them and their employees and colleagues and companies in a different way than we had before, because we're not just telling stories, we're giving them an experience that they can go back and share. And I think when it comes from somebody like a volunteer or someone who's had that experience, it's better than if it comes from me or Sarah or even Carol, because it's real and it's genuine.
I would agree with that, Bill, and I would use, I like the phrasing that you used, and I'll use another phrase that we've heard certainly within the network, and that is moving from transactional relationships where the donor gives you money, you log the money, then you send the money out to the community in some way, to a transformational relationship where we are, based on what Kim was just describing, and the knowledge that she gained, and Zach as well, in terms of what's actually happening in the community, what the needs are. You can read about something in a newspaper, but it's different than going to the actual site of the agency that is packing those grocery bags with food that elementary school kids will take home with them. And that transforms the individual's experience and their perception of, number one, the actual need of the community, number two, their ability to help address that need, and number three, which is now last but certainly not least, the value of United Way in helping to make that transformation happen.
I would love to hear from one of our United Way partners on here. Just, what are you guys doing? Because we all can learn from each other. And I'm happy to unmute anybody that would like to speak. I'd love to just hear what you guys are doing in terms of your engagement.
Hi, my name is Marissa. I'm from United Way of Kenosha County.
Wisconsin, right?
Yes, Wisconsin. Sorry.
That's okay.
I would say we are a lot behind from where you are with your volunteer engagement, but some things that we're doing next year is our 100th anniversary. So we're really hoping to bring back our day of action, and we're working with kind of a leadership team in Kenosha who can help us plan that a little. We're hoping for 100 volunteers for our 100th year day of caring. And after listening to a little bit more of what you had to say, I think that bus day where they get to ride around with the agencies would really be impactful, especially on our 100th anniversary, where some of these agencies have been our partners for so many years and counting. Yeah, great ideas. Thanks for hosting this.
Yeah. Well, actually, so this is our 100th anniversary as well. So I'm happy to connect with you after this, just to share a little bit about what we've done this year and if it can be helpful for you all.
That would be great. Yeah.
Awesome. I would say, and maybe Sarah, you want to, that bus tour was really emotional for some people. And we actually had a member of the media ride with us the entire day. And it became a really great story in the local newspaper with the photos and just the reactions of folks. So, Anita, let me unmute you. Are you unmuted?
I think so. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Hi, everybody. I'm from United Way of Southwest Michigan. Love the bus tour idea. We actually did those pre-pandemic, and then during the pandemic, did virtual ones. So we would have our partners come on and give a short overview of how our funding impacted them. It was great, and it enabled the employees to ask questions. It was great because it saved them a lot of time. But to be honest, I think the bus tour is much more impactful. We compared both of them, and there's just nothing like being in the space. And then we didn't get a ton of traction with the virtual ones either. I think people are just tired of virtual, tired of the screens a little bit, and offering them an experience is, I really love that you guys did that. I think we're going to try to get back to it for sure. But thank you. This is great. We are really going to work towards this. We're noticing that our volunteering engagement is extremely high. People want to get out again. They want to re-engage and be around others and practice those social skills again that we haven't been able to use as much. So thanks you guys for putting us on. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. I think for all of us, as much as COVID sucked, and we all work for nonprofits because we're optimists. And so I think
Yeah.
COVID gave us a pause to kind of reevaluate what we were doing, and gave us an opportunity to say, okay, how can we come out of this better, and better for our community and better for the long term? And so it was a great time for us to reevaluate, what we were doing in terms of engagement, so that when COVID was kind of over, in a sense, that we would be really ready to move on it and move quickly. So we appreciate it. And is there anybody else on the call that would like to tell us about their United Way? I know that, listen, I got to pick on Burke County because you laughed at my dad joke. So.
Hey, Bill, I'll chime in. We currently do not have a community engagement council at all. I think it is definitely something that we're interested in doing. Certainly our workplace campaigns have certainly decreased a great deal. I liked what you said in terms of starting small and identify some of those workplace campaigns that have been loyal supporters. And I think that, I can even think of some individuals already that it'd be great to bring to the table, maybe along with some community partners. I know that you said that you brought that particular council underneath fund development. We have a fund development committee. We're a very small United Way. We have 3 part-time employees. And so we do have a volunteer committee. So do you no longer have a volunteer committee, or maybe you never? I think you said you did. So do you no longer have a volunteer committee? Is everything funneled underneath fund development now?
So resource development is now me as the director. Sarah is our resource development associate. And then we're actually in the midst of hiring a new engagement coordinator. So we did have that volunteer engagement coordinator before, and that position was kind of under community impact. But again, we kind of realized that we needed to be more strategic about the workplaces and getting that message and getting that re-engagement taking place. And so we moved it into resource development because we just felt like that's where it needed to be.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Well, I appreciate everybody. Is there anybody else that didn't get to say anything that wants to say hi or share anything with us? Well, I appreciate it. And we've been recording, so we will we'll post this on the workplace for all those who couldn't attend today. And feel free to reach out to us. Happy to help you with anything you need. That's what the network is for. You all have a wonderful day and a great weekend.
You too.